You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome to the Toronto Sports Rush channel, part of the Bet Rivers Network. Hradek here alongside one of the great coaches in NHL history and someone I'm really happy to call a friend of mine, works with me over at the NHL Network, Bruce Boudreau. And I might add, in doing the research for this, just a reminder to viewers out there, the second fastest coach ever to 500 wins. Only Scotty Bowman did it faster. Second fastest to 600 wins. And that tricky Scotty Bowman, he also did it faster. But hey, what a great coaching career. And you never know. You still could be back, Bruce. You never know.
You never know. I never say never because as you know, I never thought I would. When I was 38 years old, I still thought I could play in the NHL. When I was 53 years old, I still thought I had a chance coaching in the NHL. So, if anything, I've got a positive outlook on things to come. So, hopefully, you never know what
That's right.
What comes behind the corner, what's around the corner.
That's right. And you did an unbelievable job in 4 different places and doing a really terrific job with us at NHL Network and doing the TV stuff. We appreciate the time today. I guess, we're going to get to the Leafs. I want to talk about your thoughts on the Leafs. You're a Toronto guy. You played for that organization years ago. You're drafted by them. But I wanted to start with Alex Ovechkin because, again, a very unique knowledge you have. You came in there and you were among his first coaches. I mean, you came into Washington on November the 23rd, 2007. The team, to me, Bruce, people don't remember, the Capitals were in disarray. They were trying to rebuild. They had good young players in their group. Glenn Hanlon was the coach. It just wasn't happening for him there. It looked like the general manager, George McPhee, was probably on his last legs there. They bring you up from Hershey, where you had coached a lot of those young players that weren't there yet, and they brought some of those guys up, and they really responded. Just give me your thoughts on just meeting Alex Ovechkin maybe for the first time as his head coach, and what was that like?
Well, you know what? It's funny because I knew Alex a little bit because I'd been at training camp for a couple years since he started actually. But that day was a whirlwind. But I remember at one point George says, "Okay, after you talk to the coaches about what you're going to do, go address the team." So I said, "Oh, geez, I got to address the team." And so I walk in there, and my style is I walk around the room and I try to look at everybody in the eyes rather than just staying at the front and sort of having a broad outlook. So, I mean, and I started on the right side because I'll never forget this. I mean, and you're going around and you're saying, "Boys, I think we're a good team. I've seen us in camp and I know guys that I've had them and I was going around and around and around like this." And then I come to the stall and, his name's over top of it. And then I said, "Holy F, I'm coaching Alex Ovechkin." Look, I mean, that was really, and I got all tongue twisted then. And I blah, 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 and I didn't know what I said after that because reality had finally set in for me. I mean, that I was actually coaching Alex Ovechkin. And by that time, he'd had 2 50-goal seasons, and he was, well on his way to being the face of the NHL along with Sidney Crosby. So I looked up and I don't even remember what I said after that. But then I said, "Okay, here's the practice plan." And I went outside, and then I came back in and sort of calmed down a bit and talked about it. But I guess my point is he was bigger than life to me after only being his third year in the NHL. And I remember taking him out and asking him after that, "Do you understand everything? What we're trying to get here and need you and blah, blah, blah." And he came out and he had a great practice. And, we started off really well. And a lot of it was because of him. But I will say this too, the funny thing, he was acceptable to change at that time to me. Like I remember on the first game, I said, "Alex, I'm going to put you in the bumper position on the power play." And he said, "Why, coach? Why? I got my spot there." And I said, "Well, listen, just bear me out here or hear me out. I want to put you there and everybody is going to attack you. Okay, the defense is going to be there. The weak side D is going to be there. Everybody's going to think that Nick Backstrom is going to pass you the puck, and I'm going to have Mike Green on the other side, and he's going to bypass you. He's going to pass it to Green, and he's going to score. And he said, "Okay, I try." And in the 4-minute mark, we got a power play. Backstrom gets it, does the same thing. Green puts it under the bar, and they all come to the bench. And I think that was my acceptance right there. I said, I told you guys, I know what I'm talking about. And then that was it. But the meeting Alex, and if it wasn't for Alex saying that, if he had said, Bruce, no, this is where I play. If he was a prima donna kind of guy at that young age, then it wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't have been accepted and who knows where it would have gone. But because Alex was so gracious in wanting to win and do things, that things worked out for us.
Have you noticed, Bruce, any changes from, in Alex? I mean, he's an older man now. He's got a young family. You had him at a very, very young age when he came into the career. Do you notice from afar differences in him at all?
Well, obviously he's not quite as quick. Doesn't have the energy to play 24 minutes a night all out. But what I did notice in recent weeks is that he's grown from a captain of being the best player to a captain being also he's off the ice. The thing he did with Marc-Andre Fleury, the speech that he had after the game, he has become like I can't think of the word, but I mean, it's maturity. He understands the off ice stuff as well as the on ice stuff. When he was young, it was all about scoring and having fun and winning. Now it's about he knows how to play the game off and on the ice. And I thought that was his speech was remarkable. What he did with Marc-Andre was remarkable. And I think those things are the thing that you can see the maturity in him as the years have gone by.
Bruce, do you think winning the Stanley Cup for him, kind of made life, a little bit easier in terms of being a player and a leader on that team?
100%. 100%. Because people would talk about him a little bit, especially early on in the career, because when the Caps would lose out, he would be gone the next day to the World Championships and playing for Russia. So, I mean, I think this was just the thing that he needed. And I mean, and you could see, like the way he scored that goal, when he won the Cup, that the fun he had. And I mean, to me, it was all about the hug between him and Nick Backstrom on the bench when they won. And I mean, you could see that it meant a lot to him. And it was to sort of justify him being called the best scorer of all time by winning the Cup. And I think because Sydney had won it 3 times up to that point, then beating Pittsburgh and winning the Cup, I think that was all of a sudden another one of those I can let my air out and and think of myself as a great player rather than the one thing hanging over me that he had never won. That if there were naysayers, they would talk about him not winning the Cup, and now he's won it, so they can't say that.
Hey, Bruce, you were really a really terrific offensive player as a junior. You played a long time in the different minor leagues and had great numbers. You played some in the National Hockey League. You were an offensive player. You coached great offensive players in different places in your career. You've coached now the all-time goal leader in the NHL. You had him at a very early point in his career. Is there a goal that you look at, not like the maybe most memorable, but something from your own, I mean, as a player, as a guy who understood what it was like to try to score in the league, was there 1 or 2 times when he did that, had a goal when you were coaching, you were like, wow, I can't believe he was able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a goal in the series we lost that sticks out in my mind, that when we lost the series to Montreal, there was a goal where he came off the bench, and it's on almost all the highlight films, where the puck was in the at center ice, and he knocked it off the boards, came to a complete stop, did a pirouette, went around the defenseman, got the puck. It was a 1-on-1. He went wide on the D, and the guy tripped him, and as he was falling, he put it in the net.
Wow.
And I just said, wow, if you ever get a chance to see that, I don't know I can't remember what game. It was a home game, so it was either 1-2-4 or 7, 1-2-5 or 7. And it's just a remarkable goal. And then the goal, like when he got the hat trick goal against Pittsburgh, when him and Sidney got it, that was pretty special as well. I mean, but just seeing him, how excited back in that time frame when all the Caps were young. I mean, they had the greatest celebrations after they scored, very similar to what he did when he scored the 895. So it those goals all bring back memory. But the one thing when I think of Alex Ovechkin, I think of him coming off the left wing, getting the puck, taking one step into the middle and letting that wrist shot go that goalies couldn't pick up. And it was either curving, rising, or just plain too fast for them to get a hold of it. And those are the things that when I'm thinking of Alex, I think of.
All right. Last thing about Alex before we get to the Leafs. He's going to get to 900. I mean, he's going to get 5 more. Maybe he gets that this year. We'll see. But how about 1,000? Can he get to 1,000 goals? I mean, he's had an unbelievable year this year. In 60 games, he's had over 40 goals. So you think he can get to 1,000? Does he have the desire to play long enough to get to 1,000?
I mean, that's the ultimate question. I mean, if he put it to his mind and his family said, yeah, we will stay here till you get 1,000, then you retire, then he'd get 1,000. But I mean, the way I look at it is he's got that it's going to take 3 more years. I mean, who knows? If he had a year like this year and he did it 2 years in a row, which in your 40s, scoring 50 plus goals a year seems like quite a task. But also the thing that I don't know, in his speech after he scored the goal, he mentioned one thing. He said, I was glad my wife allowed me to play. And he mentioned Russia twice. So I often wonder in the back of his mind if he wants to go back and have a year in the KHL and sort of do the swan song because he loves his country very much. And you could always have told that. But I mean, it was. But if he wants to, and he says, honey and Ted, I'm going to stay here till I get 1,000 goals. I need a contract till I get 1,000 goals. Yeah. And Ted would give it to him, just like I know he's going to honor his contract next year because I know him and Ted have got a special bond, and Ted's done everything for him. I think he would finish and do whatever Ted would have liked to have done. So I mean, boy, would I like to see him get 1,000 goals. Talk about an uncatchable record. I mean, when you think about it, that's playing in the NHL for 20 years at 50 goals a year with no let up. I mean, I just, all records are made to be broken, but boy, that would be a tough one to think could be broken.
Yeah, for sure. So, wow, it's been an interesting week, and Ovechkin finishing the chase to Wayne Gretzky. He stands atop the list of all-time goal scorers, and glad to get your thoughts on Ovi. Let me get you talking about the Leafs here a little bit. They're your guys, the Leafs. You grew up a Leafs guy. You drafted. You played for the Leafs. I mean, it's been a great season. They got a big game, tonight and tomorrow night. They're in Florida for this trip. They got the Florida Panthers, who are struggling right now, have a lot of guys out of the lineup. And then tomorrow night, even a tougher spot against the a Tampa Bay Lightning team that has been really playing well most of the season, but has picked it up. Had a nice win over the New York Rangers on Monday night. What do you make of the Leafs coming down the stretch? You've been behind the benches in these different situations. Where do you think Craig Berube is with his group right now?
Well, I think he's happy but not satisfied, if that makes any sense. Like, I mean, for most of the year, they've been a very good defensive club. They don't hang 2 guys high up anymore. The goaltending has been pretty solid. They do a lot of good things. I think he wishes he's thinking that there's another step that they could take, which is exactly what you want, because in the playoffs you have to play at least 10% better almost in every round to win the cup. And if you come in and you're playing as good as you possibly can and you can't raise your game in the playoffs, it's not going to be successful. So I think he likes where he is. I think he's sitting there and going, you know what? I don't think he cares who he plays against, because it's always a problem when you wish to play somebody.
Yeah.
And I mean, that comes to bite you up in the ass a lot of times. But I mean, I think he's going to go in there, and I think he wants to prove to Florida and to Tampa that if he wins these two games, he says we can play you and we can beat you. And so I think that's the goal in mind. But I mean, he's been on a season-long goal to get the Leafs to play better defensively. I think he's succeeded in that. I mean, with the fact, I think Austin Matthews has become, and I never would have said this last year, a hell of a two-way forward now, and he can play against anybody. And I mean, the minutes are usually down. They're around 20 minutes, but they're not 24 and 25 minutes like they had with Sheldon. And so, I mean, I think they're really ramping it up on a great trajectory to be ready for the playoffs. And I mean, who knows what can happen? I think Florida is going to be a lot better. Watching Tampa last night, after the first 10 minutes, I'm going, man, this team is going to be very difficult to beat as well. And Ottawa is playing as good as anybody, and they will be riding emotions. Or if it's Montreal, they will be riding emotions like you can't believe. So, I mean, the Leafs better be ready in that first game of the playoffs if they play either one of those two teams.
Have you been impressed with Tavares and Marner this year? Both guys in last year contracts. You've coached all kinds of situations. You've seen that play out where a guy really struggles or has those off ice issues, kind of concern him. Tavares has been terrific this year and even better down the stretch. And Marner, the same thing. I mean, has that impressed you that those guys have just come to play and put everything else aside?
100%. With John, I mean, it looks like he's saying to Toronto, listen, I want to play for a few more years. I want to play in Toronto. And he said, don't, when you offer me a contract, don't embarrass me like Tampa might have done for Steven Stamkos type thing. I've played here. I am good. And my game is not deteriorating. He reminds me of a little bit of Joe Pavelski and Corey Perry. He's never a great skater, but his skating is actually looking better this year than it has in the past, to me. And you can't he's got 35 goals or something right now. And I mean, he could end up with 37 or 38 goals and 80 plus points. Like, I mean, this guy is behind that Austin Matthews. You need that solid second line guy. He's him. I don't know where you're going to go out and find another guy that's going to do the job that John Tavares is going to do. So I think they'd be re-signing him. I think they've got to I'm such a Mitch Marner fan in his ability. I don't know him at all, never met him, but every time he played against the team that I was coaching, he would be getting breakaway after putting passes on the tape. So, I mean, I think they got to sign them both. I mean, the salary cap is going up, so where they'll be able to. Tavares isn't going to make as much as he has been. So, I mean, and Marner might be making more than he has been. So, I mean, I think that'll equal out. And I think they got to sign them both no matter what happens. And because if you let them walk, I think there's nobody out there that's going to improve your team as much as these two guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would expect that will be the case. I guess time will tell. Circumstances change. I'll see how things go in the playoffs. Let me ask you, you've had to make this decision. So I'll ask you, because people ask me all the time when we talk about the Leafs here, the goaltenders, right? Like, I think, it's nice to have, that number one guy that you're always leaning on. That's not the case there in Toronto. They have two guys that have played well this year in Stolarz and Wall. It's probably given their best goaltending they've had there in many years now. You're looking at it. How, as a coach, are you looking at this down the stretch? Are you just looking to see who's playing the best and that'll be the guy you start? Do you already have a plan in mind? I think these guys have talked about this a lot behind the scenes.
100%. I mean, if you're into game 77 and you haven't got your plan yet, maybe you're a little too late.
Probably late,
Yeah. I think Craig knows who he's seen between these two goalies. who he has the more faith in,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be the guy who starts. Now, it's not going to be maybe the guy who finishes, but it's going to be the guy who starts. I mean, I would be willing to guess that both of these goalies again will play against both Florida teams, but I think after that he's going to probably go with Stolarz, and then let's see how neither one of like Wall has got more playoff experience than Stolarz, but I think he's going to start with him, and this is a guess on my part, but I don't think it's going to be long. If he lost the first 2 games, then he would probably go back and go to Wall. So, but I think at this point he's going to go. I think he's thinking Stolarz, but I have no idea.
Yeah, what goes into those decisions, Bruce, Bruce, because you've had to make those calls. I mean, you talk to the goalie coach, you talk to your assistant coaches. Are you talking to the goalies at all? Like, you just said the word like faith, like in Craig Berube's gut. I mean, he has got to have, he's not going to tell us, but you've been in that spot. You knew in your heart when guys were up there picking at you, asking you questions, right? You knew in your heart who you had a little more faith in. How does it play out behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, exactly. I know who I want. Now, I'd be sitting around with 5 coaches, and I'd say, okay, give me your thoughts on who should be the goal, from the goalie coach to all the assistants. Now, if all of them pick the other guy, and then I'd sit back and I'd go, okay. Maybe it's something to think about. If it was basically even, or if the whatever, then I'd say I'm going with my gut and who I think should start. And if everybody agreed with me, which I would think in a situation like this, you probably would, because I mean, they've been with you all year. They're seeing the same things. You're having the same conversations during the year that you're going to be having now. So I think, but they would all have input. I mean, even the GM, like, I mean, for the most part, as long as he wasn't a goalie. I know you know where I'm going with that. So anyway, but I mean, it's that's what I would have. Like, I think communication and knowledge is great. I mean, even in practice plans every day. I mean, if the coaches, when we had our meeting before practice, thought that I shouldn't be doing what certain thing, and they all agreed with it, I would bend to them. But if they all thought, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, or what have you, then I would go with what I thought. But it's a team decision, but my decision to make at the end.
What was the toughest one for you, Bruce? Because I know you had some different goalies in Washington. You had some different goalies in Anaheim. You had good goalies in a lot of places. I mean, I know you had a young Gibson there, I believe. You had a Hiller. You had different guys in Washington. You had Neuver. You had different guys there. Was there one year, maybe Earl, maybe it was in Washington when you were first in the National Hockey League. Was there one year when in the playoffs it was a hard decision to figure out which way to go?
Well, when I went with Cristobal Huet instead of Ole Kolzig in the first year, I thought that was a different one because of Kolzig's not only his reputation, but his tenure with the Caps. That was a tough one. But the toughest one was when I had Freddie Anderson and John Gibson. And Gibson was the up-and-coming superstar. Freddie had been there probably the same length of time, but wasn't classified as the up-and-coming superstar. So I remember Mr. Murray said I have to start Gibson, and my gut said I should start Freddie. And so when we lost the first 2 games, I switched to Freddie. When we won the next 3, then Fred lost the last 2, and maybe I shouldn't have played him. The other one was in Washington. We lost the first 2 games, and I had a young Semyon Varlamov, and Theodore was the goalie. And I went up to Alex and Nick, and I took the leaders, and I said, listen, I'm thinking of doing this. How confident are you in Varlamov? And they said they were very confident. So that's when I made the change. Like, if they had said, hey, listen, I don't think so, he's too young, or whatever, because he'd only had 4 or 5 starts with us. And he went in, and we beat the Rangers in 7, and then took Pittsburgh to 7, and they won the Cup. Yeah, so those were the 2 or the couple of real hard decisions I had for the goaltender in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's another thing, and I'll let you go on this, Bruce. Is that, like, you mentioned, it's not always just the coaches. I mean, you mentioned Bob Murray in Anaheim. They sometimes upper management wants to be involved in those kind of decisions. It makes it more difficult, right?
It is, because they're the boss and they can control you. Like, I mean, if I had enough confidence and said, "The hell with you, I'm going the way I want to go," then that's one thing. But I didn't think I had that. I don't know if it's confidence or I didn't have the hammer. So it was if I was Scotty Bowman, I would have went with whoever I wanted, but I wasn't Scotty Bowman, so that was that.
Well, hey, listen, you did pretty darn good. Like I said at the top of this thing, second fastest in league history to 500 wins, second fastest in league history to 600 wins. Only Scotty did it faster. I know you got to run. You're a busy guy. Thanks a lot, my friend, for all the time today. And I'm sure I'll be pestering you later in the evening about the games, and I'll see you at the network. So nothing new there.
I can't wait for it to happen, and I'm just looking out at the second green, and I'm waiting for you to come down and play with me.
All right, I'll be looking for a little golf this summer, no question about it. Bruce, thanks again for the time. I really appreciate it. You've been watching the Toronto Sports Rush. It's part of the Bet Rivers Network. Make sure to subscribe. It's the great Bruce Boudreau. Thanks, buddy.
Anytime.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.